Do you believe in urban legends? Well, there's an urban legend within the retirement planning community about an alarming number of aerospace engineers dying within 2 years of retirement. Subsequent studies noticed this trend and went on to assert that by delaying retirement, you therefore shorten your lifespan. Of course, these studies were wrong. They made the classic mistake of trying to turn correlation into causation. But while the studies may have been wrong, here's the thing about the urban legend. It's true. You may not know this, but my undergraduate degree is in mechanical engineering. Out of college, I worked for several years designing construction equipment, light fixtures, and packaging machinery. Who were some of my coworkers during this time? Well, some of them had experience working at a certain aerospace firm. The stories that they told at lunch and on the shop floor were hard to believe. They even seemed to have a hard time believing them. But after hearing the same stories over and over from credible sources, I came to believe that they were true. There was a fear and reverence in the way that they spoke. It was as if someone had dared them to look in the mirror and say Candyman 5 times. In fact, this urban legend eventually grew so infamous that many of these aerospace engineers refused to retire. They'd even come in and sleep at their desks, anything to avoid a fate they saw as inevitable. In one particularly tragic example, an engineer died less than a month after he retired. If the timing of retirement has no causal links to life expectancy, then what's going on here? I recently stumbled across an article by Neil Pasricha, the author of The Happiness Equation, entitled, "Why Retirement is a Flawed Concept." His article resonated with me. Over the years, I've seen clients who didn't follow his framework struggle in retirement, and it reminded me of the aerospace engineers. Often we focus on how to retire, but it may be just as useful to ask if you should and what you do when you finally get there. I hate to break it to you, but retirement is a made-up concept. Before 1890, it simply didn't exist. If you could travel back through time, do you think you'd be able to explain the concept of retirement to medieval serfs or our distant hunter-gatherer ancestors? Probably not, assuming they didn't think you were a witch and burn you at the stake first. No, this guy, Otto von Bismarck, is credited for inventing the concept of retirement. To encourage older Germans to leave the workforce and make room for younger citizens who were increasingly immigrating to America, von Bismarck began implementing laws to stimulate the German economy and increase the security of workers. In 1889, his old age and disability insurance law was passed, providing income to workers aged 70 and older. However, not many people lived beyond 70 in those days. The average life expectancy in Germany during this time was 45 years. So these pension payments were truly intended to help those considered to be elderly. And keep in mind, there weren't a lot of office jobs back then. The popularity and success of von Bismarck's program caught on, and other countries implemented their own pension programs for older workers. Most of these programs began making payments to workers somewhere between the age of 65 and 70. And thus, retirement was born. There was just one problem with the system. People started living longer, much longer. Today, it's not uncommon to plan for retirement to last 20, 25, or even 30 years. And even that doesn't account for early retirement, which has become even more extreme thanks to the FIRE movement. Having free time to pursue our interests is a good thing. However, is the stereotypical retirement of playing golf and drinking piña coladas every day to pass the time between vacations really the life we're working so hard to support? While that may sound like fun for a while, it's probably not the healthiest thing for us over the long run. So, is there a better way to think about retirement? The people of Okinawa live, on average, 7 years longer than Americans. They tend to be healthier, happier, and skinnier than us. So, how do they think about retirement? They don't. Okinawans don't even have a word for retirement. The idea of stopping work entirely doesn't exist in their culture. Instead, they focus on having a reason to get out of bed in the morning. They have a term for this: ikigai. A study performed at the Tohoku University Graduate School of Medicine found that participants who had an ikigai, or a reason to get out of bed every day, had better health, lower stress, and longer life expectancies. In his article, Pasricha proposes that humans aren't designed to retire and do nothing. Instead, we're happiest when we pursue an ikigai composed of 4 things that he calls the 4 S's. Social connection, people in our lives to fulfill our need to connect. Structure, a reason to get out of bed every morning. Stimulation, a mental challenge that keeps us growing. And story, being part of a group trying to accomplish something bigger than ourselves. Instead of a part of our lives filled only with leisure, Pasricha proposes that we begin thinking of retirement as an encore career that engages us by adding social connection, structure, stimulation, and a story of something greater. Engineers are problem solvers. Trust me, I used to be one. I think that many of these aerospace engineers, once they retired, lost their reason to get out of bed in the morning. I suspect many of them lost all 4 elements of Pasricha's retirement ikigai. Now, we can joke about how much social connection an engineer might need, but it's not 0. Suddenly, these engineers may have found themselves without their familiar structure, stimulation, and story of something bigger once they retired. I think this is eventually what caught up with them. I know that some of you aren't going to have any problems leaving work on your last day and never looking back. If this is the case, my guess is that you already have many of the 4 S's set up in your life to make the transition to retirement easier. However, if you find enjoyment, engagement, and social connection at work, then it's worth thinking about your retirement ikigai. What's going to get you excited to get out of bed in the morning? In financial planning, our focus is often on determining if we can get to retirement, but thinking about what we'll do with our time and why may be the key to enjoying it. If you'd like to learn about 5 unexpected psychological aspects of retirement, then I suggest you watch this video to learn more. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.